Nandiyan na po.
Hintayin ko lang si Risa. Sabi ko, hintayin ko siya. Sorry. Tignan natin. Oo nga, pero pag-flash ninyo, dapat baguhin yung pag-flash. Kasi doon sila malilito pag-flash. May iba sinabi. Yung system. Ano, pwede ko nang ikapisa na, no? Si Senator, teka, ino ko muna si Senator Soto. Okay na, ano ba interview kayo? Ano? The 62nd session of the Senate in the second regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Joel Villanueva will lead the chamber in prayer.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank and praise you for this wonderful time and opportunity that we can be of service to our country and people. We ask that you bless each and every one of us here as we come to you and open this session. Please forgive each and everyone's sins in words, in thoughts, and in deeds, and allow us to be a channel of your blessings to millions of our people. Father God in heaven, we ask that you give us your treasury of wisdom, that every word that will come out of our mouth be acceptable to you, our Lord, our God, our Savior Jesus Christ. Continue to increase your name in our midst and let us all be decreased. We ask that you bless every member of the Senate, every family represented in this august chamber. Bless our President, the executive branch of the government, the entire legislative, and the entire judiciary. Into your hands we commend everything as we carefully give back to you all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Dilima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Honasan, Monteveros, Lacson, Ligarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Po, Recto, Soto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Suberi, Senate President Pimentel.
With 19 senators present, kasama Senator Recto, dito. The chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 61st session, Monday, February 26, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. President, we'd like to welcome some guests in the gallery. We have the mayors of Cavite, Mayor Dalia Loyola of Carmona, Cavite, Mayor Dino Chua of Noveleta, Cavite, also the guests of Senator Manny Pacquiao, the local government officials of General Santos City. Then we also have Congressman John Ferrer, Mayor Oni Ferrer of General Trias, Mayor Rading Viado of Amadeo, Mayor Perfecto Fidel of Indang, Governor Boeing Remulla, Mr. President, is with us. And we also have the Globe Tech Senior High School and Technical Training Institute, San Antonio Village, Makati, headed by Ephraim Emmanuel Malilin, and the College of St. John Paul II Arts and Sciences, Cainta Rizal, headed by Melissa Patco, the Dean of the College of Business. We'd like to welcome them to the Senate, Mr. President.
Welcome to all of our guests.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Messages from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 20 February 2018, it designated Representatives Mangawang and Maceda as additional conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 5792 entitled An Act Institutionalizing the Balik Scientist Program and Appropriating Funds Therefore, and Senate Bill number 1533 entitled An Act Institutionalizing the Balik Scientist Program, Appropriating Funds Therefore and for other purpose.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 20 February 2018, it designated Representatives T. Batucabi, Ramirisato, Acosta, and Salon as conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of House Bill number 6772 entitled An Act Ensuring the Preservation and Management of Protected Areas, amending for the purpose of Republic Act Number 7586, otherwise known as the National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 1992, and Senate Bill Number 1444, entitled An Act Declaring Protected Areas and Providing for Their Management, amending for this purpose Republic Act Number 7586, otherwise known as the National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 1992, and for other purposes.
To the Committee on Rules.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 20 February 2018, it designated Representatives Durano VI, Dilmar, Gatchalian, Escudero, Primicias, Agabas, and Cortuna as conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the Disagreeing Provisions of House Bill Number 5269, entitled An Act Institutionalizing the National School Feeding Program for public kindergarten and elementary pupils and appropriating funds therefore, and Senate Bill Number 1279, entitled An Act Establishing a Comprehensive National Feeding Program to Combat Hunger and Undernutrition among Filipino children and for other purposes.
To the Committee on Rules.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 20 February 2018, it accepted Senate Committee Resolution Number 8, entitled Resolution Concurring in the Posthumous Conferment of the Quezon Service Cross to Miriam Defensor Santiago.
To the Archives.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 20 February 2018, it designated Representative Olivares as additional conferee to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the Disagreeing Provisions of House Bill Number 6573, entitled An Act Prohibiting Hazing and Regulating Other Forms of Initiation Rights of Fraternities, Sororities, and other organizations, and providing penalties for violation thereof, repealing for the purpose Republic Act Number 8049, entitled An Act Regulating Hazing and Other Forms of Initiation Rights in Fraternities, Sororities, and other organizations, and providing penalties therefore, and Senate Bill Number 1662, entitled An Act Amending Republic Act Number 8049 to strengthen the law on hazing and regulate other forms of initiation rights of fraternities, sororities, and other organizations, providing penalties therefore and for other purposes.
To the Committee on Rules.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the session in the second row, Mr. President. Adjourn.
Order, please, order. Okay. The Secretary will continue with the reference of business.
Bills on first reading. Senate Bill Number 1705, entitled An Act Amending Sections 28 and 112 of Republic Act Number 8424, otherwise known as the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, as amended, and for other purposes, Senator Sani Angara.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
1706, an act establishing a national vision screening program for kindergarten pupils and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Sani Angara.
To the Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, Health and Demography, Ways and Means, and Finance.
1707, an act providing a framework for the right to adequate food, Senator Sani Angara.
To the Committees on Justice and Human Rights and Finance.
1708, an act to strengthen the profession of optometry, hereby amending Republic Act Number 8050, otherwise known as the Revised Optometry Law of 1995, to enhance the delivery of vision care in the Philippines, and for other purposes, Senator Laila M. de Lima.
To the Committees on Health and Demography, Civil Service, Government Reorganization, Professional Regulation, and Ways and Means.
1709, an act to establish the National Site Strategy Plan, Senator Laila M. de Lima.
To the Committees on Health and Demography and Finance.
1710, an act rationalizing the enforcement of the term limits for elected officials as provided for in the Constitution, Senator Laila M. De Lima.
To the Committee on Electoral Reforms and People's Participation.
Resolutions. 658, resolution recognizing Filipino international singer and composer Freddy Anak Aguilar for his lifetime outstanding contributions to the Philippine arts and culture, Senator Soto III.
To the Committee on Rules.
659, resolution directing the proper Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the cases of severe malnutrition that afflicts children in the light of the death of grade 5 student Jonathan Oya in the province of Zamboanga del Sur. Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy is Binay.
To the Committee on Health and Demography.
660, resolution directing the Senate committees on public services and on science and technology to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on internet availability, costs, and speed in the country in the light of a new report that the Philippines continues to lag behind other countries in the ASEAN region, and to review the implementation and impact of existing laws and regulations on telecommunications. For this purpose, Senator Grace Poe.
To the Committees on Science and Technology and Public Services.
661, a resolution directing the Special Committee on Marawi City Rehabilitation to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the national government's moral and ethical obligation to provide financial assistance and support to victims of the prolonged and intensified armed conflict in Marawi between the ISIS-inspired Mauti group and the Philippine Armed Forces. Senator Paulo Benigno Bam Aquino IV.
To the Senate Special Committee on Marawi City Rehabilitation.
662, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the need to standardize national and local road signs to conform to international standards. Senator Laila M. De Lima.
To the Committee on Public Works.
Committee reports. Committee report number 251, submitted by the Committee on Education, Arts, and Culture on House Bill number 5780, introduced by Representative Gonzales et al., entitled An Act Renaming the Don Honorio Ventura Technological State University in the Municipality of Bacolor, Province of Pampanga, as the Don Honorio Ventura State University, and expanding its curricular offerings. Amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9832, entitled An Act Converting the Don Honorio Ventura College of Arts and Trades in the Municipality of Bacolor, Province of Pampanga, into a state university to be known as the Don Honorio Ventura Technological State University, and appropriating funds, therefore recommending its approval with amendment. Senator Escudero.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 252, submitted jointly by the Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, and Finance on House Bill number 6030, introduced by Representative Abellanosa et al., entitled An Act Integrating the Cebu City Mountain Extension Campus as a satellite campus of the Cebu Technological University, and appropriating funds, therefore amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9744, otherwise known as an Act Converting the Cebu State College of Science and Technology System in the city of Cebu and all its satellite campuses located in the province of Cebu into a state university to be known as the Cebu Technological University, and appropriating funds, therefore recommending its approval with amendments. Senator Escudero.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 253, submitted jointly by the Committees on Education, Arts and Culture, and Finance on House Bill number 6031, introduced by Representative Mercado et al., entitled An Act Mandating the Integration of the Maasin City College into the Southern Leyte State University, recommending its approval with amendments. Senator Escudero.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, there are other mayors accompanying Governor Remulla. I would like to welcome also Mayor Ray Rillo of Maragondon, Mayor Eric Vida of Verdes, Mayor Danny Bancito of General Aguinaldo, and Mayor Omil Poblete of Silang, Cavite, and also the students of the 9th College of the De La Salle Araneta University, headed by Professor Alice Pedracio. We'd like to welcome them to the Senate. Mr.
Welcome to our other guests. Welcome.
Mr. President, with the concurrence of the Chamber, may I move that Senate Bills 1596, 1590, and 1550 be transferred from the Committee on Rules to the Committee on Local Government. These measures, Mr. President, pertain to the declaration of local holidays in 2 different localities in the country, and the counterpart measures from the House of Representatives have already been referred to the Senate Committee on Local Government during the previous plenary session. So, in fact, we have authorized the Committee on Local Government to already include these 3 Senate bills in their committee hearings earlier today. So I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection to the motion to transfer? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Thank you. Mr. President, with the consent of the Chamber, again, I move for the consideration of PS Resolution Number 2, taking into consideration PS Resolution 538.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure without prejudice to inserting into the records the entire text of the resolution.
Resolution expressing the sense of the Senate to nominate Whang-od, Ogay, for the gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan or the National Living Treasures Award for her immense contribution in promoting and preserving Filipino traditional folk art.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize Senator Sani Angara. And thereafter, Senator Nancy Binay will co-sponsor, Mr. President.
So before I recognize Senator Angara, the Chair requests for total silence so we can give our full attention to our sponsors. So Senator Angara is hereby recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader, distinguished colleagues. Kami po, Ginoong Presidente, ay tumatayo ngayon upang himukin ng Senado na hirangin si Apo Whang-od para at ogay sa gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan o Gamaba Award, ang National Living Treasure Award para sa kanyang walang pagod na pagpreserba at paglaganap ng tradisyon ng pambabatok o ang pagtatato ng mga kalinga. Ito po ay ayon sa Senate Resolution na inihain namin ni Senadora Nancy Binay. Si Apo Whang-od ay sinasabing huling mambabatok ng mga butbut, isa sa mga tribo ng kalinga, kung saan ang mga tato ay hindi mga simpleng palamuti lamang sa katawan, kundi mga simbolo ng katapangan, ng kagitingan at karikitan ng tao at ng angking hiwaga at kagandahan ng kalikasan na makikita sa bulubundukin at bundok ng Cordillera. Dating mga headhunter o mga namumugot ng ulo ang tribo ni Apo Whang-od. Noong sinaunang panahon, ang mga lalaking nakakapag-uwi ng mga pinugutang ulo lamang ang nakakatanggap ng mga batok o tattoo. Para sa mga babae naman, inaanyayahan silang magkaroon ng mga tattoo bilang pang-akit o kaya hudyat ng kanilang antas sa lipunan o social status. Mr. President, matagal nang tumigil ang headhunting sa Cordillera. Kung dati mapanganib para sa mga tagalabas ang pumunta roon, ngayon malaya nang nakakabisita ang mga turista, Pilipino man o banyaga. Habang paunti-unting pumasok ang pagbabago sa mga kalinga sa paglipas ng mga taon, nangyari na si Apo Whang-od ang naiwang nag-iisang mambabatok ng mga kalinga. Nanganib na mawawala ang tradisyon ng pambabatok sa kanyang pagpanaw. Pero dahil sa social media, nakilala ang kwento ni Apo Whang-od. Paunti-unti siyang dinadayo ng mga Pilipino at banyaga para magpatato, kahit napakahirap puntahan ang buskalan sa Tinglayon. Hanggang sa ngayon, napakahaba ang pila para makakuha ng tattoo mula sa kanya. Isang cottage industry na po ang nabuo sa buskalan dahil sa mga batok ni Apo. Nakahanap na rin ng mga tagapamana sa kanyang tradisyon. Patuloy na tinuturuan ni Apo Whang-od ang sinaunang sining sa tatlo sa kanyang mga apo at pamangkin. To a certain extent, Apo Whang-od's tattoos can be considered the country's first viral indigenous art form. My staff was enterprising and crowdsourced pictures of people who were blessed with Apo Whang-od's tattoos. Their email boxes and Facebook Messenger accounts were overwhelmed with the response. These pictures we see, distinguished colleagues, are the ones, are examples of the tattoos of Apo Whang-od. We intend to use these pictures later for a little gift to give the great lady. For those who still want to help out, they can email their contributions to wanglove2018@gmail.com. Consider the fact that the Facebook group called Tattooed by Whang-od has at least 20,000 members, not just from around the Philippines, but from all over the world. No less than Kuya Kim Atienza and National Youth Commission Chair Aiza Segura have tattoos from Apo Whang-od.
Gusto namin pagmalaki ang aming mga Apo Whang-od tattoos. Sige, you first. We would like to greet Apo Whang-od a very, very happy birthday.
So, anniversary na rin yung
Anniversary.
tattoo ko.
And sa totoo lang po, swerte kami. Swerte kami because, you know, in our lifetime, na-meet namin kayo. Natatuan mo kami. And sa totoo lang, ang daming pagbabago sa buhay ko na alam ko, iba yung, ewan ko, there's a sense of, it's a spiritual thing. I can never explain it through words, what I felt when I went there to get a tattoo from you. So, happy birthday, Apo, at
Maraming salamat. Dahil binubuhay mo at patuloy mong pinagpapatuloy mo ang kultura ng pambabatok. Tama ba?
Yes.
I think kung hindi dahil sa'yo, hindi magkakaroon ng kaalaman at kamalayan ng ating mga Pilipino in a more familiar way into how they appreciate, in their appreciation for this art.
Clearly, Mr. President, Apo Whang-od has touched the lives of so many people by actively exercising and preserving her art and tradition. Through her and her art form, the past and present of the country mixes, hopefully pointing to a brighter future. This to us is a foremost reason why she should be given the National Living Treasure Award or the Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan or GAMABA, making her equivalent in rank with a national artist and eligible for the same benefits. I am sure that my father, former Senate President Ed Angara, who authored the GAMABA law, or our Republic Act 7355 in 1992, would agree that Apo should be one of our country's national living treasures. The megaphone effect of social media helped ensure that even in her advanced age, Apo Whang-od could pass on her tribe's traditions to future generations. And we hope the same megaphone effect could be used again to drum up mass support for Apo Whang-od's nomination. Sa tulong ni DSWD Cordillera Administrative Region or CAR Regional Director Janet Armas at ni Tinglayan Mayor Sacra, na pag-alaman namin na ayon sa Certificate of Live Birth ni Apo Whang-od, siya ay magiging 99 years old itong darating na March 7 sa susunod na linggo. 100 what? Birth certificate. Isang taon na lang, eligible na rin si Apo na makatanggap ng Centenarians Prize ayon sa Republic Act 10868 o ang Centenarians Act of 2016 na inakda po natin sa Senado sa tulong nila Senators Recto, Villar at Binay. As she celebrates her 99th birthday, and in the following year will celebrate her centenary, what better way to honor her than by calling on the Senate to pass this resolution that she be awarded the Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan Award. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, dear colleagues.
Mr. President, Senator Nancy Binay wishes to just insert into the records her co-sponsorship speech. And then Senator Villanueva and Senator J.B. Ejercito wishes to make a manifestation, Mr. President. Okay.
Senator Villanueva.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to express my full support for PS Resolution number 538 of our shipmate, Senator Sani Angara. And this is together with Senator Mig Subiri, Senator Win Gatchalian, and Senator J.V. Ejercito. Mr. President, it's about time that we do something and nominate Whang-od for the Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan for her timeless contribution to our nation's artistic heritage. Her craft and skill in body art through the indigenous art of batik has been treasured by the Filipino people and the global community. Her work has attracted a substantial number of local and foreign tourists, and the beauty of her unique craft deserves the utmost recognition from the Philippine government. As such, this representation, Mr. President, would like to reiterate my full support for this resolution and likewise humbly urge the National Commission for Culture and the Arts to act on it as soon as possible in order to uphold Whang-od's distinction as a living legend of Philippine art. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Senator Ejercito is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, the Philippines is known for its resonant cultural heritage. Given our own diverse and ethnic culture, it is significant that we Filipinos preserve our cultural heritage by understanding and appreciating our way of life as a people. Understanding our tradition and culture entails valuing what we have as a community. Our cultural heritage composed of landscapes, monuments and buildings, clothing and garments, visual arts, literature, performing arts, and even certain individuals are recognized by virtue of the Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan or the National Living Treasures Award. Mr. President, as proposed under RA 7355, Manlilikha ng Bayan shall mean a citizen engaged in any traditional art, uniquely Filipino, whose distinctive skills have such a high level of technical and artistic excellence and have been passed on to and widely practiced by the present generation in his or her community with the same degree of technical and artistic competence. Quoting Shoni Jose, art, whatever form it takes, requires hard work, craftsmanship, and creativity. Whang-od, Ogay, or Apo Whang-od is the oldest and last Mambabatok, or traditional artist of the But-but tribe. In her hand lies centuries old of tradition. Like the tattoos of her tribe, it had stood the test of time. Apo Whang-od has been a master of her craft for 80 years. Her intricate masterpiece can be seen not only on canvas but on the skin of the head hunters of their tribe and also the women, the latter having them as a symbol of beauty and elegance. With Senate Resolution number 2, taking into consideration Senate Resolution number 538, I, together with my seatmates, support the nomination of Whang-od, Ogay for Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan or the National Living Treasures Award for immense contribution in promoting and preserving Filipino traditional folk art. Actually, Mr. President, just a few weeks ago, I was in Kalinga, and I wanted to see Apo Whang-od, but at that time she was not feeling well. I was hoping that I would get a tutu from her while still living, but I will try again in the coming weeks. So hopefully before her 100th birthday, we'll be able to see her again. So in the fear of foregoing, Mr. President, I support the adoption of Senate Resolutions number 2 and 538.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move to adopt PS Resolution number 2 under, PS Resolution number 2, taking into consideration PS Resolution 538.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
With the permission of the body, Mr. President, I move to transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders. Senate Bill 1698 under Committee Report 242.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
I move to consider Senate Bill 1698 under Committee Report 242.
Any objection? Hearing none, said measure is under consideration.
May we ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure?
Secretary, please.
An act strengthening the employment rights for members of the Citizen Armed Forces or the reserve force of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and for other purposes.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we ask that Senator Bam Aquino be recognized, and then the Chair of the Committee on Labor, Senator Joel Villanueva, will co-sponsor the measure.
Okay, Senator Aquino to sponsor is recognized.
Mr. President, Majority Floor Leader, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. It is my honor and privilege to stand before all of you today to co-sponsor with Senator Joel Villanueva Senate Bill number 1698 under Committee Report number 242, otherwise known as the Reservist Employment Rights Act. Mga kaibigan, mga kababayan, kakaiba na po ang mga banta sa bansa natin ngayon. Patindi ng patindi ang banta ng mga natural disasters na puwipinsala sa ating mga komunidad tulad po ng bagyo, lindol, storm surge at iba't iba pang mga dilubyo. Malubha na rin po ang banta ng terorismo sa Pilipinas. Nakita po natin sa Marawi ang kakayahan ng mga teroristang wasaki ng ating mga tahanan at budburan ng bala ang ating mga eskwelahan. Kasindak-sindak rin po ang nagaganap sa ating mga karagatan. 7 na ang installment ng China sa West Philippine Sea at pinapangalanan pa ang iilang parte ng Philippine Rice. Kakaiba na po ang mga banta sa ating bansa. Kakaiba ang hamon sa mga Pilipino, lalo na po sa mga Pilipinong naglilingkod sa ating Armed Forces of the Philippines. Now more than ever, the AFP needs support, resources, manpower, and expertise from various industries and sectors to fulfill their duty to serve and protect our country. Now more than ever, the AFP needs a dedicated, experienced, and sophisticated reserve force comparable to the reserve forces of other great nations. Mr. President, nung pumutok po yung balita nung May 2017 na gustong gawing mandatory ulit ang ROTC, bumisita po ako sa mga kaibigan natin sa ARESCOM or Army Reserve Command sa Camp Priego de Dios sa Tanza, Cavite at tinanong, ano po ang kailangan natin upang patibayin ang reserve force ng Pilipinas? Mula po sa mga pag-uusap po namin noon at ilang workshop pa na nagawa, ilang informal meeting, ilang roundtable discussion, nabuo po at lumabas ang mga solusyon na ngayon ay napapaloob sa Senate Bill 1698. Ang Reservist Employment Rights Act po ang sagot sa tanong, ano ang kailangan upang patibayin ang reserve forces ng Pilipinas? It turns out, Mr. President, we don't need to force Filipinos to serve their country. There are already many men and women who are willing to volunteer, to sign up, to go through intensive training and risk their lives to serve and protect our country. And doing this still with their day job. Some of these brave and impassioned Filipinos, some of our reservists are with us here today. And may we ask some of our reservists to please stand up to be recognized. Nandyan po sila. I know that we also have a number of colleagues here in the Senate who are reservists as well. Senators Villanueva, Soto, Ejercito, Loren, Senator Legarda as well. I think Senator Pacquiao is also a reservist. Marami po sa atin dito ang mga reservists. Mr. President, our reservists are entrepreneurs, IT professionals, teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, sales agents, security guards, and yes, our very own civil servants here, working in the Senate. These are Filipinos who have volunteered their time, energy, capabilities, and expertise to our armed forces. These are the Filipinos that the armed forces need as their reinforcements. Mr. President, at this point, I would like to acknowledge some of the members of the military, representatives from our government agencies who have all contributed to this bill and have thrown their full support behind the Reservist Employment Rights Act. Let me acknowledge and maybe ask them to stand Commodore Samuel Felix, our Deputy Chief of Staff for Retiree and Reservist Affairs, Brigadier General Bernie Langub, who of course started this process with me when I visited him at their camp in Cavite. Rear Admiral Jovi Bacordo of the Philippine Navy is with us as well. Colonel Harold Gagan of PAF of the Philippine Air Force, Colonel Rolando Rodil, Colonel Gaudencio Cantos, Colonel Erwin Alea,
Colonel Francis Lorenzo, Colonel Nestor Narag, and of course, Lieutenant Colonel John Chavez Arceo are all with us here today. We would also like to acknowledge the agencies who have come together to put together this bill, specifically our SSS President and CEO, Mr. Emmanuel Dook, is with us. Attorney Joseph Desunya, Legal Affairs of SSS, is also with us, as well as agencies DOLE, Civil Service Commission, GSIS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay po kayo. Thank you very much. Mr. President, our reservists have signed up to serve Filipinos who suffer natural disasters and calamities. They've signed up to rebuild our communities from ground zero. They've signed up to enter the battlefield and even risk their lives. Dear friends, our reservists sign up for a lot of things, but one that they did not sign up for, or one that we can save them from, is that some of them lose their jobs after providing service to our country. Our reservists must be valued, dignified, and rewarded for the hours, days, and months they spend training and on the field. Our reservists should not be asked to give up their livelihood or risk their careers when they serve our country. Thus, Mr. President, we must pass the Reservist Employment Rights Act, a measure that not only ensures proper training and compensation for reservists, but also protects them from discrimination in job hiring, reintegration, promotion, or any benefit of employment. We must pass this measure to guarantee that at the end of their required military service, reservists will be reinstated to their civilian careers and to an equivalent position without loss of seniority or decreased pay. Furthermore, we must pass this measure to protect reservists who suffer any injury or disability during their service, ensuring their reintegration to the civilian workforce so long as they can perform the essential function of their original employment. Our reservists chose to put their lives on the line for our safety and security. We owe it to them to professionalize the reserve force and assure them their employment rights. It is only in this manner that we may best support our AFP regular force. We owe it to our regular force to have a well-trained, competent, and well-supported reserve force. Mga kaibigan, mga kababayan, kakaiba na nga po ang mga banta sa bansa natin ngayon. Kakaiba na rin ang hamon sa mga Pilipino, lalo na po sa mga Pilipinong nagsisilbi sa ating Armed Forces of the Philippines. Ngunit, kakaiba rin po ang puso at lakas ng ating Armed Forces at kakaiba rin ang puso at lakas ng ating mga reservist. Bigyan po natin sila ng proteksyon, tulong at nauukulang suporta. Ipasa po natin ang Reservist Employment Rights Act. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
The Chairman of the Committee on Labor, Mr. President, Senator Villanueva.
Senator Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Thank you, Mr. President. As Chair of the Committee on Labor and Human Resources Development, it is my distinct honor to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1698 or the Reservist Employment Rights Act. Papasalamat po tayo kay Senator Bam Aquino for being the principal sponsor of this particular measure. Mr. President, noong pong November 9, 2013, isang araw matapos manalanta ang bagyong Yolanda, 250 reservists mula sa Army, Air Force at Navy ang nagboluntaryo para magpadala ng relief assistance sa mga biktima ng sakuna sa Panay Island. Sunod-sunod po ang mobilisasyon ng iba pang AFP reservists sa buong panahon ng pagbangon ng mga nasalantang lugar dahil sa bagyong Yolanda. Noong mga unang buwan naman po ng Marawi Siege, ang kwento ng Army Reservist na si Lieutenant Colonel Roberto Almario, isang telco industry executive at kapwa natin, Tomasino, ang pumukaw sa atensyon ng ating mga kababayan. Nang matanggap niya ang paanyaya ng AFP para magtungo sa Marawi, hindi na po siya nagbantulot. Iniwan po niya ang kanyang pamilya, negosyo at trabaho dito sa Maynila para sa call of duty. Tumagal po ng 60 araw ang pagsiservisyo ni Lieutenant Colonel Almario sa Mindanao. Admittedly, Mr. President, the AFP remains among the least capable militaries in the region in terms of warring capability, but certainly not when it comes to the number of reservists. It has like engineers, IT experts, bankers, doctors, among others. They are selfless individuals who choose country above self. Mr. President, the AFP has a total of 385,116 reservists in 2017, almost 3 times the number of active force in the AFP. But reservists are not only force multipliers. They can perform various non-lethal military operations, assistance in relief operations, and disaster response. Ang malaking bilang po ng mga individual na umaanib sa kasundaluhan, kahit wala namang sweldo, ay patunay na marami pa rin talagang Pilipino ang nais maglingkod sa kapwa at sa ating inang bayan. As the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi, once said, every citizen should test military life to be patriotic. Ito rin po ang nag-udyok sa atin nung tayo po ay pumasok sa Army Reserve Force noong kinatawan po tayo ng Sibak Party List. Sa palagay ko po, Ginoong Pangulo, hindi po tayo nagkakaiba ng layunin at iba pang nating mga AFP reservists dito na binanggit na kanina ni Senator Bam Aquino. Mr. President, we need more individuals to join our reserve force and we can achieve that through this particular measure. Ang malaking tanong po kasi ay kung paano maiengganyo ang ating mga kababayang pumasok sa AFP kung sa pagganap nila ng tungkulin bilang reservist ay malalagay naman po sila sa alanganin sa kanilang trabaho. Naniniwala po tayo na adhikain ng marami nating kababayan ang makapagserbisyo, subalit importante pa rin ang kanyang seguridad sa trabaho. Hindi po dapat mawala ng trabaho ang isang reservist dahil sa pagtugon niya sa imbitasyong maglingkod para sa bayan. Nasa palagay ko ay ang pinakamataas at pinakamarangal na uri ng gawaing maaaring gampanan ng kahit sinong Pilipino. Mr. President, ito po ang pangunahing layunin ng Senate Bill number 1698, proteksyonan ang karapatan ng ating mga manggagawang reservist. Our reservists should be entitled to their original position without loss of seniority rights or reduction of pay. Likewise, their military service should not be considered a break in the employment for retirement purposes. Mr. President, hindi po ba mas dapat na i-reward pa nga ang mga reservists sa halip na ikastigo sila ng employer? Bawasan ng benepisyo tulad ng leave credits o kaya'y hindi na muling tanggapin sa dating trabaho pagkatapos ng mobilisasyon nila sa AFP? Mr. President, Senate Bill 1698 also seeks to address any discrimination in the workplace, both public and private, based on one's association with the military. Reservists have the right to return to the same job they were doing before they were mobilized. They have the right to receive the same salary level prior to their call to military service, and they have the right to equal treatment in the workplace. Again, as Chair of the Committee on Labor, I hope that our employers will not take this measure as detrimental to them or to the business. In fact, I believe the benefits of this measure are definitely tangible to any employer. Reservists are highly valued because they have the confidence, resourcefulness, and attitude that service in the armed forces necessitates and harnesses. Lastly, Mr. President, let me say that standing for lupang hinirang with right hand over heart does not make one patriotic. Sabi nga po ng isang manunulat at guro sa Ateneo na si Ginoong Onofre Pagsanhan, ang tunay na nasyonalismo ay wala sa tamis ng pangarap, wala rin sa pagpag ng dila. Ito ay nasa pawis ng gawa. Ipasa po natin ang Senate Bill number 1698 upang protektahan ang trabaho ng ating mga kababayang reservist habang naglilingkod o nagpapakapawi sila para sa ating inang bayan. Muli, maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo, and may God bless us all.
Mr. President, to give time to the other senators to study the proposed measure, Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill 1698 under Committee Report 242.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move to resume consideration of PS Resolution 647 under Committee Report 243.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we have a 1-minute suspension while the sponsor is on the way, Mr. President?
Session is suspended.
Ano yun? Sige. Bukas na. We're ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of PS Resolution 647 under Committee Report 242.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
With the consent of the body, Mr. President, I will jump through the agenda and move to resume consideration of House Bill 5367 under Committee Report 216.
Any objection? Hearing none, we will now consider the said measure.
Mr. President, this is the measure creating the 8th Legislative District of the province of Cavite. In the parliamentary status of the measure, we are in the period of interpellation. So may we recognize the sponsor of the measure, Chair of the Committee on Local Government, Senator Sani Angara.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. There are no members from either the majority or minority who have expressed their intent to interpellate. Perhaps...
All right, Mr. President, in that case, I move to close the period of interpellation, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, we close the said period.
Mr. President, I move to open the period of committee amendments.
Individual or committee?
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
May we know if there are any committee amendments from the sponsor, Mr. President? Senator Sani Angara.
It's in the committee report.
Senator Angara is
Yes,
recognized.
Mr. President, Majority Leader, we have some committee amendments on page 1 to delete section 1, lines 1 to 4, and in lieu thereof to insert a new section 1 to read as follows. Section 1 of Republic Act 9727 is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 1, Legislative Districts. The province of Cavite, which shall have 8 legislative districts to commence on the next national and local elections after the effectivity of this act, is hereby reapportioned as follows. First Legislative District, Cavite City, Kawit, Noveleta, Rosario. Second Legislative District, Bacoor. Third Legislative District, Imus. Fourth Legislative District, Dasmariñas. Fifth Legislative District, Carmona. General Mariano Alvarez, GMA, Silang. Sixth Legislative District, General Trias. Seventh Legislative District, Trece Martires City, Indang, Tanza, Amadeo. Eighth Legislative District, Tagaytay City, Alfonso, General Aguinaldo, Magallanes, Maragondon, Mendez, Naik, Ternate. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? As the minority leader is recognized.
On page 2,
Excuse me, the minority leader has been recognized. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Just this is just a clarification of the way the amendment is presented. Okay, section 1 says, before the amendment introduced, the province of Cavite, which shall have 7 or 8 legislative districts to commence in the next national election after the effectivity of this act. This is being amended to include and local. Just a question, Mr. President. When we say national, we know what it means, the presidential election. But when we say national and local, is the intention here to make this effective in May of 2019 election? Is the intention when you say next national and local elections? Is the intention to create the 8th legislative district in May of 2019?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
Just for the record, is the election in May of 2019 a national and local election? I have no objection, but just to spread it to the record, that is our intention, because I get the impression that there is no such thing as a national and local election. I don't know what this means, Mr. President.
May 29 is a national and local. The minority leader is correct. It is a national and local election. Yeah.
Okay, so the intention is to make this effective, the 8th district, to make it already existing in May of 2019 national and local election.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
So, is there any, back to the question, is there any objection to the proposed amendment? Okay, there being none, the proposed amendment is hereby approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, to delete the section 2 since the provision is already covered in the new section 1. So move.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
We move to renumber the sections accordingly, Mr. President.
Any objection?
And lastly, the title of House Bill 5367 shall be amended to now read as follows. An act amending Section 1 of Republic Act 9727, reapportioning the province of Cavite into 8...
9767? Is that correct? What is it?
9727, Mr. President.
27? Oh, is that correct?
The House Bill is 5367, but the Act's title is an Act amending Section 1 of Republic Act 9727, reapportioning the province of Cavite into 8 legislative districts. So move, Mr. President.
So is before the approval, Mr. President, so is the law being amended, Republic Act 9727, that is the law?
I think there's a typographical error in the committee report, Mr. President, but it should be 9727 for the record.
Yes, so 9727 is the law that created the 7 legislative districts of Cavite.
That's correct, Majority Leader.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. We have no objection to the motion.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. No other amendments.
Move to close the period of committee amendments, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
There are no individual amendments. I move to close the period of individual amendments.
Any objection?
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading House Bill 5367 under Committee Report 216.
Any objection? Hearing none, the said measure is approved on second reading.
Thank you. We have a 1-minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of House Bill 1926 under Committee Report 215.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, this is the act creating Poblacion, Barangay Poblacion 2 in the municipality of Villanueva, province of Misamis Oriental. The parliamentary status of the measure is we are in the period of interpellation. So may we recognize the sponsor of the measure, Chair of the Committee on Law and Government, Senator Sari Angara.
Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader, distinguished colleagues. There are no members who have expressed their wish to interpellate.
Considering this is a local bill, Mr. President, I move to close the period of interpellation, Mr. President.
Any objection?
May we know if there are any committee amendments, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, distinguished
Then I
Majority Leader.
move to open the period of committee amendments, Mr.
Any
President.
objection? None approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's only one amendment. I move that on pages 1 to 3 to delete lines 4 to 22, and in lieu thereof, insert the following metes and bounds and technical description of Barangay Poblacion 2 as an integral part of House Bill 1926, as indicated in the committee report number 215 and flashed on the screen. The bill now contains the amendment rather, contains the territorial boundaries as certified by the Land Management Bureau of the DNR. I so move, Mr. President.
Containing an area of 832,454 square meters, more or less. So that would be the information. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
There are
No other amendments, Mr.
Mr.
President.
President, I
Majority
move to
Leader.
close the period of committee amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Move to open the period of individual amendments.
Any objection?
No individual amendments, Your Honor.
There are no individual amendments. I move to close the period of individual amendments.
Any objection?
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading House Bill 1926 under Committee Report 215.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
We thank our colleagues and the Senate President and the Majority Leader. Thank you.
Senator Subiri?
If with the permission of the sponsor, since it being from Northern Mindanao, may I ask to be made also a co-sponsor and co-author, with the permission, of course, of the body.
I don't think he's objecting, so...
Okay lang to be a co-author?
Yes, okay, so...
Thank you very much.
Let the records reflect the co-authorship of Senator Subiri.
After break na, Riza. Wala pa si after Loren. Mr. President, may we have a few minutes of suspension so that we may allow the other senators to join us, Mr. President? Move to suspend.
Session is suspended. Val. Loren, si Loren ba? Loren. Punta.
We're ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, before we call on the treaties, the trade agreements, I'd like to acknowledge the guest of Senator Legarda, His Excellency Koji Haneda from the Embassy of Japan, Minister Takehiro Kano, the Deputy Chief of Mission and Head of Political Affairs, Mr. Hiromichi Matsuo, the First Secretary, the Political Section, and also other guests of Senator Legarda, Mayor Bernardo Sanman of Cardona, Rizal. Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of PS Resolution 647 under Committee Report 243.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
This is the resolution concurring in the ratification of the free trade agreement between the EFTA states and the Philippines. The parliamentary status of the measure is that we're in the period of interpellation. So I therefore move to recognize the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations, Senator Loren Legarda.
Senator Legarda is recognized.
The minority leader has withdrawn his reservation to interpellate, Mr. President, and therefore I move to close the period of interpellations.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
May we know if there are any amendments, Mr. President, from the sponsor?
No amendments tayo, no? No. No committee amendments, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I move to open the period of individual amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
We recognize the minority leader.
Minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As in the other treaties that the Senate concurred in, we have always included a standard provision which would require the concurrence of this chamber in case the executive branch or the government will withdraw from the treaty. Presently, the Constitution requires the concurrence of 2/3 of the Senate before in the ratification of a treaty, and in the several treaties that we have whose certification this chamber concurred in, we have inserted a clause which will require also the concurrence in case of withdrawal. It is in that context that we propose the following amendment to be inserted as one of the whereas clauses. It shall read this way: resolved finally that the President of the Philippines may, with the concurrence of 2/3 of all the members of the Senate, withdraw from the convention or protocol or agreement, as the case may be. This is the same clause or amendment that is found in the other treaties where we concurred.
2/3, right? So, yes, Mr. President, of course, I accept it, and we appreciate such intervention.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, I move to close the period of individual amendments.
Any objection?
I now move to vote on second reading, PS Resolution 647, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Any objection? Hearing none. The motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of the following resolutions. Senate Resolution 648, 649, 650, 651, 652, 653, and 654, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
These are the resolutions concurring in the ratification of maritime conventions as follows: control of harmful anti-fouling systems on ships, prevention of pollution from ships, load lines, 2 resolutions on the safety of life at sea, promote compliance with international conservation and management measures by fishing vessels on high seas, and port state measures to prevent, deter, and eliminate illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. The parliamentary status of these measures are all in the period of interpellation, Mr. President. So I move to recognize Chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations, Senator Loren Legarda.
Senator Legarda is recognized.
The minority leader has withdrawn his reservation to interpolate on all the resolutions, Mr. President. So I move to close the period of interpolations.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, I move to open the period of amendments, Mr. President.
Any objection? We are now in the period of amendments.
No committee amendments?
No committee, just like the previous, there's no committee amendments.
No committee amendments. I move to open the period of individual amendments, Mr. President, and ask that the minority leader, Senator Frank Drilon, be recognized.
Any objection? Hearing none. Senator Drilon is recognized.
Mr. President, as an omnibus amendment to be inserted as a final resolutory paragraph in all the concurrence in the ratification of the treaties on the table, I mean on the floor, we propose the following amendment. Again, we repeat, this is an amendment on all the on all the treaties under consideration. The amendment will read this way: resolved finally that the President of the Philippines may, with the concurrence of 2/3 of all the members of the Senate, withdraw from the convention, protocol, or agreement as the case may be, subject to style.
I accept, Mr. President.
As an omnibus amendment to all, Mr. President.
Same idea as...
Yes, same idea.
Okay.
To all the resolutions.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I move to close the period of individual amendments on all 7 measures, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
8. Correct, 7, Mr. President. So I move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 648 under Committee Report 244.
Okay.
Any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 649 under Committee Report 245.
Any objection? Approved.
I move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 650 under Committee Report 246.
Is there any objection? Approved.
Move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 651 under Committee Report 247.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, approved.
I move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 652 under Committee Report 248.
Any objection?
Move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 653 under Committee Report 249.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Move to approve on second reading Senate Resolution 654 under Committee Report 250, Mr. President.
Any objection? Approved.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of all 7 resolutions, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, we suspend the consideration of the said measures.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Mahirap, no?
Mr. President, with the permission of the Chamber, I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill 1390 under Committee Report 52.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, this is the proposed measure, Philippine HIV and AIDS Policy Act. The parliamentary status of the measure, we're still in the period of interpellation. So may we recognize Senator Risa Ontiveros, and to continue interpellation, Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Senator Ontiveros, as the sponsor, is recognized, and to interpellate Senator Pacquiao.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask Mr. President, my colleague, if she willing to yield some question, Mr. President.
Very much so, Mr. President.
What are the advantages of making it an independent council instead of making it under the full responsibility of DOH? This is with the continuation with our last interpretation. Interpolation.
Mr. President, one of the advantages of the PNAC, or the Philippine National AIDS Council, as proposed to be amended by this bill, would be like the National Nutrition Council, or the NNC. It would be independent but attached attached to the Department of Health with respect to the budgetary allocations. The aspect of independence would come in through its having its own secretariat, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the functions of the PNAC is the development, the AIDS medium-term plan. In collaboration with the relevant government agencies and CSOs. For my continuing education, Mr. President, I would like to know what would the EMTP include? And when we say medium-term plan, what is the length of time we are talking about? Gaano katagal ba itong pinag-usapan natin dito?
Mr. President, the AIDS medium-term plan would be a national plan directing our improved and strengthened national response to HIV and AIDS, spanning a length of 6 years. I suppose, Mr. President, that the reason we adopted the proposal of a 6-year period is that it could coincide with an administration's term, so as to provide a coherent response to this long-standing health threat, but within at least the lifespan of one administration.
And also, I know this is already in the bill, but I want for the record clarification and for the record, what would the EMPT include?
Yes, Mr. President. The AMPT would include the following. First, the country's targets and strategies in addressing the epidemic. Second, the prevention, treatment, care, and support, and other components of the country's response. And this second component, Mr. President, would probably be the one that would benefit most from the learnings we have made in terms of research and documentation in the past 34 years since the first HIV/AIDS case was diagnosed here in the Philippines. And also this second element of the AIDS medium-term plan would also benefit most from the advances in technology and the health care for persons living with HIV and AIDS. Third, Mr. President, the AMPT would include the 6-year operationalization of the program and identification of the government agencies that shall implement the program, including the designated office within each agency responsible for overseeing, coordinating, facilitating, and/or monitoring the implementation of its AIDS program from the national to the local levels. And last but not the least, Mr. President, the plan would of course include the budgetary requirements and a corollary investment plan that shall identify the sources of funds for its implementation, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, for clarification. The bill seeks to establish a national HIV program. What are the mechanisms you propose to operationalize and integrate it in the local level? Ano-ano ang mga initial programs na nakaplano dito?
The initial plan, Mr. President, would build on the Department of Health's existing HIV and STI program that primarily seeks to reduce the transmission of HIV and other sexually transmitted illnesses among the most at-risk population and the general population, and to mitigate its impact at the individual, family, and community levels through the following activities and interventions. First, Mr. President, availability of free, voluntary HIV counseling and testing service. Second, 100% condom use program, especially for entertainment establishments. Third, peer education and outreach. Fourth, multi-sectoral coordination through the PNAC, or the Philippine National AIDS Council. Fifth, empowerment of communities to include the key affected populations. Sixth, community assemblies to reduce stigma. Seventh, augmentation of resources of social hygiene clinics. And last but not the least, procured male condoms distributed as education materials during outreach. In addition to those, Mr. President, there would be two highlights, additional or strengthened components of the plan, including, first of all, involvement of the community through the local HIV/AIDS Council, and last but not the least, the treatment itself, Mr. President, antiretroviral or ARV treatment, Mr. President.
Do we also establish local AIDS council in every LGUs, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, and these LGU-based local AIDS councils would in effect be the local partners of the PNAC, or the Philippine National AIDS Council, and the Department of Health in the implementation of this medium-term AIDS plan, Mr. President.
How will this bill eliminate the climate of stereotyping or the stigma of those living with HIV and AIDS?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that important question. It goes beyond the physical diagnosis and healing and caring for and of persons living with HIV to, with their own active participation, educating our society and developing a more enabling culture among us. One of the most important components would be public awareness of the disease and programs to combat stigma and discrimination. The bill, for example, Mr. President, proposes the development of education and information programs in different settings and target populations to include schools, workplaces, communities, tourists and transients, among tourists and transients, key populations and vulnerable communities themselves, so-called closed settings, and then to include information on prophylactics. This is to show, Mr. President, that HIV and AIDS, as it has or as they have affected our national community over the past 34 years, in a way knows no boundaries, crosses different demographics, different regions of the country, and is impacting in different ways from decade to decade across these different demographics and regions. So we, the bill and the medium-term AIDS plan itself proposes to educate Filipinos in these different settings about HIV and AIDS, to teach us to develop more health-seeking behaviors, to teach us how we can, in very concrete ways, exercise solidarity with each other, including with persons living with HIV, and together, including PLHIVs, to implement and to make successful a more effective response, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. As to the composition of the council, how many will be appointed in a permanent position? Just want to know, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the bill proposes for the membership and composition of the PNAC 13 groups or organizations accounting for 20 persons. Representatives from the Department of Health, the DepEd, DOLE, Department of Social Welfare and Development, DILG, NEDA, Civil Service Commission, CHED, National Youth Commission, ULAP, 2 representatives from NGOs who have expertise in standard setting and service delivery, 7 representatives from NGOs working for the welfare of identified key populations, and a representative of an organization of persons living with HIV. The government agencies, Mr. President, represented on this council, numbering 10, numbering, yes, 10, Mr. President, are permanent appointees to the Council, Mr. President.
Thank you. Article 7 of the proposed bill stipulates, Mr. President, that discriminatory acts and practices and its corresponding penalties. How do you reconcile this in terms of those who are intentionally spreading HIV or AIDS, Mr. President?
Well, Mr. President, the premise of the bill in including persons living with HIV, not just on the PNAC or the Council, but also among the key stakeholders and implementers of the medium-term AIDS plan, is that no one intentionally spreads the disease. And as we progress in our education and information campaigns to develop more health-seeking behaviors, to develop the willingness to voluntarily seek testing, to willingly go in for treatment, to disclose freely our HIV status, then we are presuming that we enable all Filipinos, including persons living with HIV, to heal the epidemic in our society and keep more persons safe or healthy. There are as to the question of what are the corresponding penalties, they are specific to those who knowingly or negligently cause another to get infected with HIV while in the practice of profession through unsafe and unsanitary practice. So this could partake of negligence or other offenses, Mr. President. And the bill says any person who knowingly or negligently causes another to get infected with HIV in the course of the practice of profession through unsafe and unsanitary practice and procedure shall, upon conviction, suffer the penalty of imprisonment of 6 to 12 years without prejudice to the imposition of fines and administrative sanctions such as suspension or revocation of professional license, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, do we need also impose an aggravated penalty on this kind of act, Mr. President? That's why, am I right?
The bill currently, Mr. President, doesn't contemplate any aggravated penalty. I think we believe that the penalty of 6 to 12 years and hopefully the realization that a person, a professional who should, through higher education, should know better, especially if a health professional who should be at the front lines of implementing the response to HIV and AIDS, to know that they have been negligent or that they have been criminally careless in the health of another person, perhaps that should be punishment or for the future deterrent enough, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the enactment of this bill, how many persons living with HIV or AIDS could be catered in the treatment program? I just want to know.
Thank you for that question, Mr. President. The bill does devote a large amount of space to the aspects of testing, screening, and counseling. Currently, Mr. President, I'm just looking for the statistic here. Yes, and these are projections that we hope to incorporate into the medium-term AIDS plan. These are projections, Mr. President, all the way up to year 2022 on yearly new HIV infections, what can happen if we increase efforts, if we go beyond a business-as-usual attitude, if we go beyond the current levels of spending that are projected to be inadequate. If, Mr. President, currently we are at year 2018, if we, for example, scale up condom use from 50 to 60%, from 50 to 60% by even just by year 2020, if we scale up accessing of antiretroviral treatment from the current 32% to 90%, so we triple our accessing of treatment even just by year 2020. Year on year, up to year 2022, we will see a decline of 26% of new HIV infections among Filipinos, especially the key affected populations, including young people as young as age 15 upwards, including men having sex with men. So there will be a consistent downward trend, Mr. President, bringing our incidence of new HIV infections down from the 10,500 new infections of 2016, which was a 140 increase from the 4,300 of 2010. We will bring it down to 7,700, a 26% decrease, Mr. President. Within that same period, up to year 2022, we are hoping to increase the ART or antiretroviral treatment coverage vis-a-vis estimated persons living with HIV to 142,400 is the total we estimate will be in need of antiretroviral treatment by year 2022. So if we implement an even better and stronger medium-term AIDS plan, we will also accelerate ART coverage. The latest figure, though, that I have, Mr. President, is for 2017. Out of 67,000 persons living with HIV, only 24,000 were availing of antiretroviral treatment coverage. But with a better, stronger plan, we should be able to catch up and have a bigger percentage of persons living with HIV by year 2022 who are accessing antiretroviral treatment, Mr. President.
May I know, Mr. President, how many existing treatment hubs right now and where are they located? Gusto po nating malaman kung...
Yes, opo, Mr. President. Sa buong bansa po natin, kasalukuyan, meron po tayong 71 DOH-designated HIV treatment hubs at primary HIV care facilities. Sa lahat po ito ng mga region, Mr. President, mula Regions 1 hanggang 12, kasama po yung Regions 4A and 4B, plus CAR, Caraga, and of course, NCR, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Covered po dito sa batas natin, sa ating PhilHealth ang treatment for HIV and AIDS. How much is the coverage yearly? Gusto po natin malaman for the record. Covered po ba?
Opo, Mr. President. Covered po ng PhilHealth kasalukuyan sa case rate nila, pero 30,000 pesos per member per year lamang po ang coverage. So, sobra pong kulang. At kung maalala kong tama, bini-breakdown pa po yan into 7,500 per quarter na availment. So, talagang sinasabi po ng mga persons living with HIV, mga organisasyon nila, at saka yung mga support groups pa, na kulang po yan. At hindi po talaga sasapat para mas maengganyo at mas masustain ang treatment ng mas maraming persons living with HIV, Mr. President.
May I know, Mr. President, how much cost of HIV testing right now?
Sa ngayon, Mr. President, yung testing ay libre. Ang kailangan pong gastusan ay yung antiretroviral treatment. Kaya po, yun din ang kino-cover kasalukuyan ng PhilHealth, bagamat kulang pa, pero tuloy naman po yung advocacy ng mga persons living with HIV, saka HIV and AIDS advocates na mapalawak ng PhilHealth ang coverage ng kanyang benefit package na yon, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, I understand it's free.
Opo.
But gusto po natin malaman magkano po yung cost niyan sa government.
Yes, Mr. President. Kasalukuyan, ang maibibigay ko pong statistic ay ang Department of Health po may budget for testing na 20 million pesos, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. May we know, Mr. President, the difference of the lifespan of those who undergo treatment and those hindi po nagpa-undergo ng treatment? Ano po ang pagkakaiba noon? Ano po ang difference, how many years ang difference para mabuhay pa dito sa mundo?
Salamat po, Mr. President, sa tanong na iyon. Yan po yung isang magandang natutunan natin itong nakaraang ilang mga dekada sa pag-unlad ng teknolohiya sa paggamot natin sa mga taong living with HIV and AIDS. Na kapag may early testing at diagnosis at may early accessing ng antiretroviral treatment, actually po, Mr. President, sa mahusay, maaga at mahusay na management ng health condition ng tao, ay posible na siyang umabot sa life expectancy kahit ng ibang tao na walang HIV, walang AIDS, or may sakit din pero ibang sakit. So, just as for any other illness, Mr. President, ang susi talaga yung maagang diagnosis at saka maaga at sustained na paggamot. Habang hindi po nag-a-access sa antiretroviral treatment, ang isang tao na may HIV at lalo na may AIDS ay mamamatay siguro sa loob lang ng 10 taon. So, kumbaga, kung mananatili tayo sa ganyang sitwasyon, parang sinasabi natin na forever na lang ang HIV positive diagnosis o AIDS ay parang sentensya ng kamatayan. Ngayon, hindi na po kailangan ganon. Basta't mas proactive po tayo sa pamumuno ng DOH, sa pamumuno ng pinalalakas na Philippine National AIDS Council, sa pagbuo at pagpapatupad ng isang mas mahusay na medium-term AIDS plan, makakamit po natin yan, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tama po ba na pagka malala na daw yung sakit, tapos magpa-treatment ka, lalong mapabilis kang mamatay?
Hindi po, Mr. President. Unlike some other illnesses na kapag medyo huli na, parang huli na, too little too late, ang kagandahan po ng antiretroviral treatment dahil pinalalakas muli yung natural na resistensya ng katawan ay kapag inintroduce yung antiretroviral treatment, kahit ito ay huli, ay hindi po makasasama lalo sa pasyente, kundi makagiginhawa sa kanya. Kahit po kapag yung CD4 na isang sukat, isang marker ng immune system ng tao, kahit kapag bumagsak na siya sa zero, as in walang-wala na siyang resistensya sa sakit dahil sa AIDS, kahit umabot na sa zero ang CD4 o immunity ng isang taong may AIDS, pwedeng i-reverse yun. Mag-pick up ulit yung numbers ng CD4 niya, basta't mag-initiate ng antiretroviral treatment, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last and final round, Mr. President. May I know how much the proposed or cost budget for this proposed bill? How much needed amount for this proposed bill?
Mr. President, matatakot na sana ako dun sa last and final round. Kasi baka isang suntok lang ng pambansang kamao, knockout talaga ako. Biro lang, Mr. President. Napaka-modest po ng proposal para sa budget sa isang sa medium term AIDS plan, 3.5 billion pesos annually, Mr. President. So napakaliit kumpara halimbawa sa ating 3+ trillion peso budget ngayong taon, 0.1% lamang para sagipin ang buhay ng mga tao, para gamutin ang mga taong may sakit, at para mapigilan na dumami ang magkasakit o mahawa sa HIV and AIDS. Mukha pong ano talaga siya, Mr. President, sobrang reasonable at mataas ang return on investment na gastos sa panig ng ating lipunan at pamahalaan, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I would like to thank my colleague for her clarification and my continuing education. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Salamat kaayo to the gentleman from Sarangani.
Wala pa.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, if the presiding officer will no longer interpolate this measure, I will close the period of interpolation.
I'm just reading the bill, Ms. Majority Leader.
Therefore, I will have to suspend. I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill 1390, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Majority Leader.
Isa na lang. Isa na lang yun. Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill 1537 under Committee Report 145.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, this is the measure on the Healthy Nanay and Bulilit Act, a parliamentary status of the measure. We're still in the period of individual amendments, considering that this is a substitute bill. And on deck is the chair of the Committee on Women, Family Relations, Senator Tiveros, and on schedule is to introduce individual amendments is Senator Recto and Senator Pimentel.
May I request for a session?
Move to 1 minute suspension,
yes,
Mr. President.
thank you.
Po?
Kanino po itong mga papel?
We're ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, during the break, the presiding officer gave a copy of the proposed amendments, his individual amendments, to the sponsor. And as agreed, we will take it up tomorrow and give the sponsor enough time to go over the proposed amendments. Also, and by the way, the Senate President is also reserved to introduce individual amendments. So we can do that tomorrow, perhaps even page by page.
Thank you for the manifestation.
Thank you. So I move to suspend consideration of Senate Bill 1537.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that, with the concurrence of the body, Mr. President, I move that we include into the consideration of the approval earlier of resolution number 2, the resolution on Whang-od, that Senate Resolution 663 be also considered.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, Mr. President, I move to adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, February 28, 2018.
Session is adjourned.